to do through this what it was not already doing through its existing liquidity management tools and programs?
Okay, thank you, Ira, for that question. Now, first thing is it is different from the usual OMO or the OMO calendar. We have given it a distinct calendar. We have given it a distinct character, not calendar. We have given it a distinct character. And we have also said, in fact, if you see my statement, go back to my statement and refer to it, which is now uploaded in the website. I have said that this program will run in addition to our normal LAF operations, our normal special OMO and other various instruments which are available in our tool. I think somebody's mic is, please mute. Please put your mics on mute. I can see one or two. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, this is in addition to our normal instruments, various instruments in our toolkit. This is in addition to that. And it has a distinct character in the sense that I think for the first time, we are giving out a particular quantum of bond purchase in the secondary market. Earlier, it was a kind of a calendar which was given out. You can say that it is nothing but a rehash of the calendar, but it was never given out, for the entire quarter. It's not a calendar that we have given out. It is for the entire quantum. It is for the entire quarter that we have announced a particular quantum. And within this particular quarter, we will be sort of suitably, depending on the evolving situation and other factors, we will be announcing auctions from time to time. And this is, I said in my statement that, the signals from the Reserve Bank, the communication from the Reserve Bank, and the action of the Reserve Bank all have to be read together. Here you have a particular action which is taken outside the normal toolkit of RBI. We are announcing a quantum upfront for the whole quarter. This is the kind of communication we have given. It's a kind of signal together with the liquidity signal which we have given, where I have gone ahead, and very explicitly defined what is ample liquidity. That is, after meeting the requirements of all segments of financial markets and the real economy, the system will be surplus. So we are giving out a signal, we are communicating it very clearly, and it is followed up by action by announcing this 1 lakh purchase program for the first quarter, with the first auction on, first auction coming up on 15th of April. So that way it has a distinct character, and that's how it should be looked at. And I will try and make this as participative as possible. So may I request the Deputy Governor, Dr. Parker, to supplement if he wishes to.
Thank you, Governor. I just wanted to make 3 points on this. It is for the first time that the RBI is committing its balance sheet to the conduct of monetary policy. This has not been done by India ever before. The second thing is that it is different from OMO because it gives away discretion. Typically in an OMO auction, we announce the amount, we announce the timing, etc. We are giving up this discretion to give an explicit assurance to markets that we will assist them in the conduct of the borrowing program. Giving up an amount upfront also helps market participants to plan their engagement with the borrowing program. So upfront, you know how much support is coming from the RBI, so you can plan your actions accordingly. It is a judgment call. It is a challenging instrument because it has risks too. It can go awry, and that can bring on tensions. But this is a risk that the RBI has taken, keeping its commitment to give an explicit guidance on liquidity.
If I may just add a follow-up question just on this only, sir. So, Governor, is it fair to say that the RBI is standing between the demand-supply mismatch for government bonds? At the end of the day, that seems to be what is happening here, because we know that there is a certain quantum of demand that will come from banks that may reduce if credit growth picks up. Foreign demand is relatively limited. We know the supply is going to be strong. If one strips out all the technicalities, isn't the central bank standing between or bridging the gap between demand and supply of government bonds?
Well, that is for you to draw your own conclusions. But we are addressing the overall liquidity situation in the market, and to ensure that there is an orderly evolution of the yield curve, and there is an orderly evolution of the financial markets also. And we are not standing in between, the government, the demand supply position. The supply is something which has to be seen how it plays out in the current, in the current year. Last year, I have given out the number. The total OMO was rupees 3.13 lakh crore. With that OMO, we supported a borrowing program of 22 lakh crores. So therefore, in current year also, with a similar size of borrowing, and to a 3 lakh crore intervention in the market cannot be sort of seen as something like completely taking over the government borrowing program or supporting it in terms of quantum. So there is enough inflow, we do expect enough inflow to come in. And we'll have to see how the situation plays out in the current year. It will be too early to sort of rush into that kind of a conclusion. I think we should go to the next question. Ira, you have asked two of them. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I would request all the participants, in order to manage the time effectively, I'll request all the participants to ask one question only. And to keep it interesting, I'll be requesting media persons at random to ask questions. So I would request now Madam Maithili Basunmat from ET now to ask her question.
Thank you, Yogesh. Thank you also, Governor, for giving me this opportunity. I just wanted to understand a simple thing. It's very heartening to hear that RBI says that it will endeavor to ensure orderly evolution of the yield curve governed by fundamentals, as distinct from any specific level thereof. So can I take it that henceforth RBI will not be rejecting bids in toto in future auctions if yields demanded by the market are higher than what the RBI is happy with? Governor?
It will depend on whether the bids are orderly or disorderly. So I cannot that we will completely give up that option of rejecting the bids. I mean, ultimately somebody has to take a call, and as the central bank, especially when we are managing so many conflicting objectives and conflicting targets which are in front of us, and we have to find the right balance. So it all depends on whether the bids, in our view and in our judgment, of course, our views and judgment will be based on reasonable assumptions. They will be on rational assumptions. So we will take a call whether it is an orderly bid or it's completely a outlier kind of bid. And based on that, we'll take a decision.
Okay, so you will have the last.
Thank you, Maithili. Thank you, Maithili.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request Lata Venkatesh of CNBC to ask a question?
Okay. Well, don't count this as my question. I'm just completing what Ira asked. Should we assume, therefore, that the intervention through GSAP is different and separately also the OMO of 3 trillion remains, Governor, and the Operation Twist, etc., continue as before?
I will supplement, but I would like to make this press interaction as participative as possible from our side. I'll ask Deputy Governor Patra to reply. Thereafter, if required, I will supplement. Deputy Governor, Dr. Patra.
Yes, thank you, Governor. Yes, Governor's statement makes it explicit that the GSAP will run alongside our regular operations, which include the whole array from LAF to outright OMOs to Operation Twists, everything. Okay. And for those for a question that came in earlier, this is built into our liquidity planning framework for the year as a whole. So it is not that it's a helicopter use of facilities. It is planned into the liquidity framework for 21-22.
Okay. So that is Ira's question, sir. So I'm just coming forth with my question. Should a hike in the reverse repo also be taken as accommodative policy? Even when you are in accommodative policy, can you hike the reverse repo? And as well, I'm a little confused about your saying that you will be accommodative till growth becomes sustainable. Look at your growth guidance. I mean, it's 26, 8, 5.4, 6.2, and for next year, 6.8 according to the NPR. Look at your inflation guidance. It is above 5 for a better part of this year and 4.5 to 4.8 for next year. Then what exactly can make you exit at all? I'm asking you this because it looks like household savings are already protesting. Are you not worried about the rise in gold imports steadily over the last 6 months and ending at almost $9 billion in March?
You have given us a lot of food for thought, but let me say at this point of time, we have said what we had to say in our resolution and in my statement. At what point we will exit, whether reverse repo should be seen in a particular way, you will have to wait for a situation when it, such a situation, when it arises. But at that moment, I feel that our statement and our resolution are sufficiently clear and also do provide some kind of a forward guidance for the markets and for all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request Mr. Govardhan Rangan from Economic Times to ask his question.
You are mute. You are mute. You are mute, Govardhan.
Okay. No, sir. Am I audible, Governor?
A little louder, please. Yeah.
Hello, am I audible, Governor, now?
Yes.
Yeah. So the CPA forecast is well above 4% for the second year running this fiscal. Does that mean that the MPC is missing the inflation target of 4%? And in that context, does the accommodative stance extend to the reverse repo as well, or is it not?
I think your question overlaps with the question which Lata also just now asked. At this point of time, as I said very clearly that I will not give you a headline beyond what is there in my statement and what is there in the resolution. On a more serious note, you see, target of 4% plus minus 2 has been reiterated by the government in its notification. In my statement also, I have said that inflation targeting framework is, the inflation targeting framework is now well entrenched. It is well anchored. Expectations are also well anchored. I have also said that the current framework of plus minus 2% gives enough room, gives enough policy space to the central bank to act in extraordinary situations such as the pandemic. So throughout, therefore, last year and also in the current MPC, the MPC has looked through certain aspects of the inflation. Going forward, we have given out certain projections. The outlook is uncertain. We will study, we will see how it plays out. And ultimately, at the current juncture, we have said that growth is of paramount importance, while of course keeping in mind very much that inflation targeting is important, because after all, the primary goal of monetary policy is maintaining a certain level of inflation. So therefore, reverse repo, at the moment, we have not said anything. So I think you will have to wait for, when we make any announcement in that regard. I can see Dr. Patra probably wants to add something. Do you have any point?
I just wanted to supplement that whenever the system is in reverse repo, policy is accommodative, full stop.
Okay. Yogesh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'll ask Mr. Anup Roy from Business Standard to ask his question.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, this fiscal, you have a lot of, you are expanding your investor base quite a lot. You have retail participation. You are, we are not talking about global bond index, inclusion in global bond index. You have also promised 3 trillion, at least 3 trillion of OMO support this fiscal. And now you are coming up with GSAP and saying that this will run alongside OMO and other tools. Are you anticipating some kind of shock to bond supply this year, or you are really trying to drive down yields at a very low level?
The drive down of bond yields will not be the right way of describing it, because again and again we are emphasizing on orderly evolution of the yield curve. And in my statement also I have said that both upward and downward movement in the yield curve are quite natural in a bond market, depending on changing macroeconomic fundamentals and other macroeconomic factors. And so therefore, we are also mindful of the kind of liquidity which is there, which is there in the market. I've given the the reserve money numbers. I have given the M3 growth numbers. So we are mindful of the overall liquidity position in the market. As a part of our liquidity management, we have also announced this variable rate reverse repo auctions. That is a part of our liquidity management operations, not a kind of liquidity tightening. I think I have said it very explicitly. So therefore, we are mindful of all the aspects of the liquidity situation, maintaining financial stability. And I said, there are many conflicting objectives which the central bank is required to manage. There are trade-offs, and we are quite confident. In fact, we will be able to sort of take a balanced call. And I think ultimately it's a judgment call. And at this point of time, I'm reasonably confident, or rather I'm very confident that we will be able to deal with, such challenges.
Thank you, sir. मैं अनुरोध करूंगा श्री प्रदीप पांड्या CNBC आवाज से कि वो अपना प्रश्न पूछें.
Pradeep, where are you? Can't hear. कहाँ पे हो आप, प्रदीप जी?
Sir, in case he is having some technical issues, we'll go.
Move on. Yeah, move on. Move on to the next person. Yeah.
Yes. मैं अनुरोध करूंगा स्वाति खंडेलवाल से जी बिजनेस से अपना प्रश्न पूछें.
All right, thank you. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर. मेरा सवाल सिंपल है सर. इस वक्त आपके पास immediate priority middle class के लिए क्या है when the environment is low interest rate regime और slightly rising inflation rate but growth को भी support करना है. तो investment avenues for a middle class क्या हो सकते हैं, कैसे इसको देखें, क्योंकि आपने शुरू में कहा था रिकवरी अभी uneven हो रही है और फिर भी हम इतना बुरा नहीं कर रहे हैं as a country. So ये एक थोड़ा पैराडॉक्सिकल सिचुएशन में हम कैसे इसको देखें, स्पेशली फॉर द मिडिल क्लास.
आपका प्रश्न जो है इतना सिंपल वैसे नहीं है. आपने कहा कि सरल सा क्वेश्चन है, इतना सरल नहीं है. मिडिल क्लास कहाँ इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगी और कहाँ पे अपना पैसा लगाएंगे, उसके बारे में तो एज ए सेंट्रल बैंक हम कुछ कहना नहीं चाहते हैं. मिडिल क्लास खुद डिसाइड करे कहाँ इन्वेस्ट किया जाए. जिस मार्केट में अच्छे रिटर्न्स होते हैं, मतलब रिटर्न एंड रिस्क, वो दोनों में एक इनवर्स रिलेशनशिप है. जहां पे रिटर्न ज्यादा हो जाता है, रिस्क भी उतना बढ़ जाता है. सो मिडिल क्लास जो है, और हमारा जो मिडिल क्लास है, उनको अंडर एस्टिमेट भी नहीं करना चाहिए. वो काफी शार्प है, इंटेलिजेंट है. वो अपना जजमेंट कॉल लेंगे कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करनी है. तो कौन सा स्पेसिफिक इंस्ट्रूमेंट में वो इन्वेस्ट करेंगे उसके बारे में मैं कुछ स्पेसिफिकली कह नहीं पाऊंगा, और कहना भी नहीं चाहिए. और आपने ये बताया कि अभी हमारा देश इतना बुरा नहीं कर रहा है, उसको मैं थोड़ा सा रिफ्रेश करूंगा. आई थिंक हमको ये माइंड में रखना चाहिए कि देखिए 2020 लास्ट ईयर जो कैलेंडर ईयर था, मार्च से शुरू होकर अभी जो अप्रैल इस साल 31 मार्च तक अभी तक जो है, आई थिंक एज एन इकोनॉमी, हमारा जो इकोनॉमी है और फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम है, वो बहुत अच्छी तरह ये जो चैलेंज है, वी हैव फेस्ड दिस चैलेंज. We entered the pandemic. आप मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक नंबर्स लीजिए या फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम, फाइनेंशियल पैरामीटर्स लीजिए, फाइनेंशियल पैरामीटर्स, the financial stability parameters आप लीजिए. We entered the pandemic in a much better position last year. अभी भी जो है हमारा मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक फंडामेंटल्स जो है, मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक नंबर्स है, और जो अपना जो फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर पैरामीटर्स है वो काफी रोबस्ट है। एंड मैंने भी स्टेटमेंट में ये जिक्र किया था कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी जो है अपना पॉलिसी, एनी पॉलिसी डिसीजन, उसका हमेशा अंडरलाइंग थीम ये रहता है कि फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी को कैसा प्रिजर्व किया जाए। और आगे जाके ये जो है, आई मीन वी विल टेक वेरियस डिसीजंस एज द सिचुएशन इमर्जेस, बट आई वुड लाइक टू ओनली से दैट कि आई थिंक एज अ कंट्री वी हैव डन reasonably well, and despite so many challenges, and today आज का स्थिति ये है कि मॉनेटरी अथॉरिटी और फिस्कल अथॉरिटी लास्ट ईयर जब ये पैंडेमिक शुरू हुआ, वर्ल्ड ओवर, सारे हिंदुस्तान के बारे में नहीं है, वर्ल्ड ओवर आप देखेंगे तो दुनिया भर में फिस्कल अथॉरिटीज और मॉनेटरी अथॉरिटीज को ये एक बड़ा सरप्राइज था, ये एक सडनली ये आया पैंडेमिक। बट एक साल के बाद दुनिया भर में सेंट्रल बैंक और जो फिस्कल अथॉरिटीज है, और पर्टिकुलरली मैं हिंदुस्तान भारत के बारे में कहना चाहूंगा, मॉनेटरी अथॉरिटी जो है रिजर्व बैंक और फिस्कल अथॉरिटी जो है सरकार, गवर्नमेंट, दोनों, both of them are better prepared to deal with this new wave of to this recent surge in the COVID pandemic, and we will do our role to the best of our capability, and I think we should be able to deal with it. That's why I quoted in my last line, and I say it with all responsibility. I concluded with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, which gives a lot of meaning to the entire statement and entire policy approach of the Reserve Bank.
धन्यवाद गवर्नर। अब CNBC आवाज के लिए प्रदीप पांड्या जी हमारे साथ हैं, उनसे अनुरोध है कि अपना प्रश्न पूछें।
कुछ प्रॉब्लम है योगेश, आप मूव ऑन करिए, उनके सिस्टम में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, प्लीज मूव ऑन योगेश, आप म्यूट पे हो।
Yes, I'll request Gopika Gopakumar from the Mint to ask her question, please.
Thank you, Yogesh sir. Good afternoon, Governor. In fact, Dr. Patra said about this GSAP, how RBI is committing, it's committing its balance sheet from monetary policy, and this is happening for the first time. Can you elaborate what it means? And also, secondly, what would be the impact of having around 1 trillion of liquidity surplus in the system? Wouldn't this be inflationary? And is that a concern?
Your question, I think you referred to Dr. Patra's comment, और ये जो टेक्निकल ग्लिच बीच में हुआ, जिसमें Pradeep Pandya could not join, that gave me some time to take a single and go to the non-strikers end. So I think Dr. Patra is now, he is facing the ball. So Dr. Michael Patra could reply to this question. I will come back when I take the next single.
Yes. Gopika, it's like this. When we are unchanged on the policy rate, we need an instrument, right, to run monetary policy. In the past, all our actions were to move the interest rates up and down and to ensure that proper transmission happens across the market spectrum. This time we are being more explicit. We are not waiting for the indirect channel of interest rates and prices to operate. We are directly committing an expansion in our balance sheet of a certain specified amount, which is known to the public, with the hope of ensuring orderly conditions in the market. Okay, what this will do is that, irrespective of what the RBI wants, we will give you 1 lakh crore, is what we are telling the market. It is not going to be timed to market situations, market movements, etc. So there is an upfront assurance. It is very much like what central banks are doing across the world into buying assets of various types. We are sticking to the highest quality assets. And why we are doing so? Because the GSEC is the benchmark for the entire market spectrum. So by influencing the GSEC interest rates, we can ensure congenial financial conditions across the economy. And that is essential for the recovery to stabilize and take root and become stronger. That is the whole essence. in a OMO type of situation, the market is guessing. How much will RBI put up there? When will it do the auction? Will it reject? Will it, all those questions come up. Here is an explicit commitment that so much I will ensure that liquidity is available. As far as excess liquidity, the second part of your question, no, we have programmed it into our liquidity framework so that it is not beyond what the economy requires in terms of its growth rate and its inflation rate. It is programmed into that. So obviously we are cutting elsewhere. What I forgot to mention in my first set of remarks was that actually governor has delivered on the promise he made in an earlier statement. If you recall, when the CRR was withdrawn, the governor said that he will replenish the liquidity taken away with durable liquidity. And he is exactly doing that. So we have a lot more certainty going forward into the market borrowing program, a lot of less tension for the markets about the RBI's presence and support. And we hope the markets will respond with orderly conditions in the marketplace.
Thank you, Dr. Patra. I'll request Mr. Mayur Shetty from Times of India to ask his question.
Thank you, Yogesh. My question is on the development measures, particularly the one relating to prepaid instruments. It looks like now these PPIs have been made almost at par with payment banks. They are being allowed to withdraw cash, made part of the payment system. So is this the kind of roadmap that you're seeing for wallets, just like large NBFCs are expected to become banks? And also, this is in light of the recent incident. Is there any data breach reporting norms for prepaid issuers?
I would request Executive Director Ravi Shankar to take that question. I'll supplement thereafter if required.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yes, you're right. The basic idea of allowing cash withdrawal, etc., in non-bank PPI issuer is essentially to level the playing field between banks and non-banks, and also achieve the comfort that one can access easily. It reduces the need to actually hold cash. The fact that a PPI holder has this comfort that I can, whenever I want, access cash, reduces the actual need to hold cash, and that we believe will give a big fillip to digitization in the system. So that is essentially the reason why this was done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would request now Mr. Bijoy Edichiria from Informist Media to ask his question.
Hi, sir. Sorry, I'm going back to the guidance. From the time the pandemic started, you've been very clear that at some point you'll have to get out of this review because this is something that you're very clear is a temporary phenomenon and we need to tide over this phase. It's something that you have reiterated throughout your communication in the early part of 2020. So when you gave the time-based guidance in October 2020, you had given you obviously had some kind of horizon in mind. Now, when you're moving back to a state-based guidance for policy, what is the thinking that is going into this? Is it because you see many more risks on the downside for growth, many more risks on the upside for inflation? Is that why the shift to a state-based guidance rather than a time-based guidance now?
The first thing is that we are at the beginning of a new financial year, and it's too early in the day to sort of give again a time-based guidance, especially when the environment at the moment has become, more uncertain due to the recent surge in infections, and the daily number of cases are pretty high. But this time around, at the same time, I would like to say that so far, the current surge is not likely to impact the growth so much as it did at this point of time last year, because the lockdown this time is selective. It is on physical movements, etc. Many establishments, manufacturing unit, service sector facilities, and many businesses are very much on with their operations, manufacturing units, factories, large and small or medium, they're all functional. People are better prepared to take, precautions. So therefore, the growth outlook based on the situation as it prevails today, we have therefore reiterated our 10.5% projection for the current year, that is for 2021. And I don't think at the moment the growth has been undermined in any manner. The vaccine is also an additional factor which is on the table. It was not there throughout last year. It started only in January or so. So therefore, there is uncertainty, but I think overall we are better prepared to continue the various economic activities which are at play in full. There is no impediment. There is no, excepting perhaps certain businesses like the restaurants and the hotels, etc. Restaurants, of course, I think many restaurants, I think Indian entrepreneurs have this innate capacity to deal with new situations. Many restaurants have, in their neighborhoods, they have taken resort to home delivery of food items. I think their activities will continue to play out. And at this point of time, whatever guidance we have given looks very much appropriate as the situation prevails today and as we expect, and it is also based on our expectation of how the situation is going to play out. We have made certain reasonable assumptions with regard to how the situation is likely to play out, and based on that, we have provided the guidance. Going forward, we will obviously be watchful, but I think I can only add that we have taken into consideration the likely scenario that is perhaps going to unfold.
धन्यवाद गवर्नर महोदय। मैं एक बार पुनः प्रयास करूंगा प्रदीप पांड्या, CNBC आवाज, अपना प्रश्न पूछें।
जी गवर्नर साहब, उम्मीद है आप मेरी आवाज सुन पा रहे होंगे। अब मेरा सवाल आपके गाइडेंस पे था जिसका आपने जवाब दिया है। इसके साथ साथ जो इससे जुड़ा हुआ दूसरा मुद्दा है कि महाराष्ट्र में करीब करीब एक टोटल लॉकडाउन की स्थिति है। हालांकि जैसे आपने कहा कि फैक्ट्रीज चालू रखने के लिए कुछ SOPs बनाए गए हैं, लेकिन फिर भी जो पूरे के पूरे ट्रेडिंग कम्युनिटी है उनके ऊपर असर है, सर्विस सेक्टर पे असर है। जैसे पिछली बार आपने बैंक्स को राहत दी थी, मॉरेटोरियम जैसी घोषणाएं की थी, अगर ये लॉकडाउन इस तरह से महीने 2 महीने चलता है और शायद दूसरे राज्यों या शहरों में भी पहुंचता है, तो क्या इस पर आप फिर से विचार करेंगे? फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज सेक्टर खासतौर पे बैंक और NBFCs के लिहाज से आप इसको कैसे देख रहे हैं?
आगे जाके हम क्या करेंगे वो सिचुएशन पर डिपेंड करता है। मैं अभी इस सिचुएशन में, आज के स्थिति में कोई स्पेकुलेशन करना नहीं चाहता हूं, लेकिन मैं सिर्फ इतना कहता हूं कि ना सिर्फ मॉनेटरी अथॉरिटी, ना सिर्फ भारत सरकार फिस्कल अथॉरिटी, बट बिजनेसेस, प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक सेक्टर बिजनेसेस, पर्टिकुलरली प्राइवेट जो बिजनेसेस है वो बेटर प्रिपेयर्ड है आज सिचुएशन को डील करने के लिए, उनका एक्टिविटीज को जारी रखने के लिए वो बेटर प्रिपेयर्ड है। आगे जाके क्या करेंगे आपको फिलहाल आपको इंतजार करना पड़ेगा। अभी मैं कोई एडवांस गाइडेंस स्पेसिफिक पॉलिसी के बारे में तो नहीं बता पाऊंगा, एंड सिचुएशंस रिक्वायर न्यू इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, इनोवेटिव थिंकिंग ऑफ डीलिंग विद इट। आप जो कह रहे हैं मोराटोरियम, वो एक कन्वेंशनल, मतलब आई एम नॉट दैट इज अ स्टैंडर्ड ऑपरेटिंग टूल। आपने देखा होगा पिछले 1 साल में हमने बहुत सारे नॉन स्टैंडर्ड और इनोवेटिव टूल्स भी यूज किया हुआ है। GSAP जो हमने आज अनाउंस किया वो भी एक नॉन स्टैंडर्ड इंस्ट्रूमेंट है। तो आगे जाके सिचुएशन के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है। हम मतलब जो कन्वेंशनल, अनकन्वेंशनल और इनोवेटिव मेजर्स पर भी सोच रहे हैं। जब सिचुएशन आए तो हम डिसीजन लेंगे। कोई एडवांस में इसके बारे में अभी फिलहाल नहीं कहना चाहता हूँ। आज के स्थिति में कोई मोरेटोरियम या इस टाइप का कोई मतलब आज के सिचुएशन में उसका कोई जरूरत नहीं है।
क्योंकि जो महाराष्ट्र का लॉकडाउन है उसके बाद काफी रिपोर्ट्स आई हैं कि उसका असर पड़ेगा, GDP पे आधे % तक असर पड़ने की बात लोग कह रहे हैं, तो एसेट क्वालिटी पे इसका कोई इम्पैक्ट नहीं होगा?
देखिए, एसेट क्वालिटी जो है डेटा हम लोग तो रेगुलरली मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं, और सेंट्रल बैंक कभी किसी भी सिचुएशन में सेंट्रल बैंक नी जर्क रिएक्शन नहीं लेना चाहिए, और हम भी नहीं लेंगे। हम सिचुएशन को वॉच करेंगे, उसका डेप्थ क्या है, उसका ग्रेविटी क्या है, उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या है, वो सब एनालाइज करके हम डिसीजन लेंगे। आज की स्थिति में अगर हम कुछ अनाउंस कर देते हैं, वो नी जर्क रिएक्शन हो जाएगा, वो बहुत प्रीमैच्योर हो जाएगा एंड इट विल बैकफायर। तो सिचुएशन के ऊपर हम एनालाइज करके जो डिसीजन है हम आगे जाके लेते रहे। सिर्फ इसी बारे में नहीं है, सारे मैटर। थैंक यू।
धन्यवाद सर। मैं अब अनुरोध करूंगा अनिर्बन नाग ब्लूमबर्ग से अपना प्रश्न पूछें।
Thank you, Yogesh ji, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, Governor. Good to see you. I had a quick question, Governor, on the GSAP. You've put out 1 trillion for this quarter. So at the start of every quarter, will you be giving out a certain number to the market just to assure them? And two, on the Forex market, you've been sterilizing some of the inflows through the forwards, through the soft forwards market. Will you be continuing to do that to kind of offset some of the domestic liquidity? Thanks.
With regard to Forex, all options are on table. So we will use the various options depending on how the situation unfolds. It's a mix of buying it on spot, keeping it. It's a mix of that. It's a mix, part of it is pushing forward. So it will all depend on the situation. I cannot say that we will only continue with this instrument. All instruments and all approaches are on the table. We monitor the situation on a day-to-day basis, and we will use all these instruments and all these approaches. And with regard to the GSAP, intention वही है कि हम clearly कोई गाइडेंस देंगे हम आगे जाके भी। इस क्वार्टर में हमने अनाउंस कर दिया है, और थोड़ा सा सरप्राइज भी रहना चाहिए रिजर्व बैंक का, सेकेंड क्वार्टर के लिए थोड़ा सा पॉजिटिव सरप्राइज भी रहना चाहिए। तो फिलहाल वो पॉजिटिव सरप्राइज को प्रिजर्व करते हैं, लेकिन आवर एफर्ट विल बी टू नेचुरली कंटिन्यू विथ GSAP. It's not a one-off kind of thing which we are doing. Let me be very clear. The current announcement is not a one-off kind of thing which we have done. And if you see, we are calling it GSAP 1.0. So in number 1.0, there is obviously a second one which is following. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sir. I'll ask Shritama Bose from Financial Express to ask a question, please.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going back to the PPI guidelines, not just non-bank PPI issuers, but also we've seen instances of data breaches at other payment intermediaries who are non-banks, payment gateway operators, etc. So what is being done in terms of the supervisory architecture at RBI so that non-bank players in the payment system are subjected to at least the same degree of oversight that banks have to face?
ये क्वेश्चन जो है पहले आई विल आस्क रविशंकर, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर रविशंकर, टू रिप्लाई टू दैट, एंड thereafter Deputy Governor Jain, if you want to add any points, you could add that. First Ravishankar, followed by Deputy Governor Jain.
Thank you for the question. Our objective will continue to be to take care of the protection of the customer and make these transactions as safe as possible. To that extent, like it was issued to banks recently, we are also looking at issuing guidelines that could lay down the basic minimum norms for cyber security and other security issues. As far as instances of such breaches are concerned, we are seized of those matters, and we are taking whatever are the steps required to reduce the possibility of such things happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I will just supplement with two of my observations. One, that we are taking the policy decisions whenever it is required. So very recently, we issued digital payment security control guidelines that will strengthen the entire ecosystem of all the regulated entities. And second, in terms of the supervision, we are monitoring all kind of IT systems of all regulated entities very closely.
Thank you, sir. So we are actually out of time, but with your permission, I'll take 3 last questions.
More. Okay, quickly, please.
Yes, sir. So I'll request Swati Bhatt from Reuters to ask a question, please.
Good afternoon, Governor. Thank you so much for this. I just wanted to understand, I mean, when the budget was made in February, obviously we didn't see this kind of cases, and all the government's projections would be based on the pre-infection surge. Is this likely to have any impact on the government's revenues going forward? And is that a concern, especially because most of the surge has been seen in all the industrialized states? And is that likely to have an impact? How do you see that playing out? Thank you.
I think it's too early to, it's too early to say that it will have an impact on the government revenues, particularly the GST or the direct tax, etc. In any case, I'm sure government will be continuously evaluating the situation. And at the moment, I think it's too early to, rush into any conclusion that the revenues will be adversely affected in the current year. And today is 7th of April, just about a week into the new financial year. So let us see. We'll have to wait how it plays out, how the economic activities are sustained. And that is our effort at the central bank. And I have also mentioned that the fiscal authorities are also, they are also, I think, equally aware about the impact that it will have on their revenues. And we are definitely, better prepared to deal with the situation. And I think it's too early. I think, let me conclude by saying that it's too early to sort of reach any conclusion or to draw a conclusion that revenues are likely to be hit, because it's too early in the financial year.
Thank you, sir. I'll move on to Nivrita Ganguly from AFP to ask a question.
Thank you, Yogesh. Sir, good afternoon, Governor. How is the MPC assessing the risks in the external environment at the moment? Particularly, I just want to get your thoughts and if there was any discussion about the stimulus that we've seen announced in the US. What would a risk of a very uneven global recovery mean for India?
Dr. Patra, you can take that question.
Yeah. In the MPC's assessment, perhaps second to these rise in infections is the global spillovers, which are a big source of risk for India, both positively and negatively. And in both ways, we suffer. There's a saying that if elephants fight, the grass suffers. If elephants get friendly, the grass suffers. So if there is a stimulus, it's the greatest likelihood is that it leaks out of the US and comes to India. Then we have a problem of high capital flows. If it's the other way around, then capital leaves countries like India and we have the reverse problem. So I think global spillovers are a big issue, especially as they impact asset prices and financial markets that are exposed to these flows. And so we do take that into account while setting up our balance of risks and making our judgments.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Mr. K. Ram Kumar, Hindu Business Line, to quickly ask his question.
Good afternoon, sir. I wanted to know about this. You have doubled the amount, day-end amount that depositors can hold in Payments Bank. Actually, is it because of you want people not become payment banks to become small finance banks? Actually, you want to discourage them?
No, it is not to discourage payment banks. I think it is to make them. It's to make them. It's to make them. What should I say? It's to make the. It's to give an additional boost to the payment bank sector. It's to support them and also to enable them to play their role in the entire, for the purpose for which it was created. We have a differential regulation for payment banks. And now when it was launched in 2016, when this 1 lakh limit was fixed, that time itself it was said that this limit will be revised. And after about 5 years, we have reviewed it. And we feel that for payment banks to continue to operate successfully and to continue to have a wider reach and serve the wider cross-section of the people, this increase in limit from 1 lakh to 2 lakh was necessary. If at all anything, it is intended to make payment banks perform their role better and to make them more vibrant.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Anand Adhikari from Business Today.
Good afternoon, Governor. Sir, our forex reserves have overtaken Russia's reserves to become the world's 4th largest. Now, if you look at the traditional or the often talked about parameters like, import cover, which is one of the highest in the recent decade, almost 18 to 19 months cover. Similarly, the debt-based indicator like, reserve to short-term debt and external debt, the forex stock looks to be, more adequate. I just want to know, sir, tell us, what are the other parameters RBI is studying or looking at, to assess the adequacy of, reserves, as there is also a cost attached to it.
You see, first thing I would like to say is that there are several ways of looking at the adequacy of a reserve. The conventional method has been to look at the import cover, how many months of imports your your reserves cover, how many months of your import bill. Second approach, another approach is to look at the ratio between the total reserves and the total forex, the total foreign debt. Within the foreign debt, the size of reserves vis-a-vis the short-term debt and the long-term debt. So there are various ways of looking at the adequacy of the reserves. So far as the Reserve Bank is concerned, we use all possible, all possible methods of assessing the adequacy of our reserves. But we are not in the market only to, it's not as if whatever be the exchange rate, the RBI will go on buying or go on selling. It's not like that. Because we have also a parallel responsibility and a parallel objective of preventing volatility, excess volatility. So our primary objective, primary approach is to prevent excessive volatility of the exchange rate between rupee and the dollar. So our interventions are to prevent volatility and to ensure that there is stability in the exchange rate. There is overall stability and there is a steady evolution and not sudden, sudden strengthening or sudden depreciation. That is our first approach. Second approach, of course, which I have said earlier also, that we have to build up our buffers. And as was being mentioned by the Deputy Governor a little while ago, you have problems coming out of spillovers. It can be two-way flows of forex. It can come in. When it comes in, you have one situation. When forex flows, there is outflow, there is another situation. So we keep all these aspects in mind. And to deal with both these situations, we need to have adequate reserves. We need to have adequate buffers. So our twin objective is to have adequate buffers, have adequate reserves to deal with two-way flow, any situation that may arise. And the second objective and the other parallel objective, as I said, is to prevent excessive volatility of the rupee exchange rate vis-a-vis the dollar and to maintain overall exchange rate stability.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Before I close, I think Mr. Mrigang Dhaniwala has been waiting for quite some time. So I'll take this last question and then we'll wind up, sir.
Good afternoon, Governor. While the MPC gives more importance to growth over inflation, core inflation you have said is near 6%. We ignored prints, headline prints of above 6% last year. Does it mean now that liquidity injections will remain the primary move and the repo rate is likely to stay at this level, what the market sees as the terminal repo rate level?
I think the Deputy Governor can take this question. Dr. Patra.
Yes, we are extremely conscious of core inflation pressures. We watch it very carefully to see if there is a generalization of pressures. Our current judgment is that core inflation is largely driven by pandemic-related disruptions rather than demand pull. Accordingly, the MPC has chosen to look through these pressures for the current time and focus on growth, which is the need of the hour. Okay. On the repo rate, as Governor keeps mentioning, everything is on the table. Nothing is withdrawn. Nothing is on all fronts.
Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the close of the press conference. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Governor, Deputy Governors Shri M.K. Jain, Dr. M.D. Patra, Shri M. Rajeshwar Rao, Executive Director Shri Ravi Shankar, and all our media friends to be a part of this process today. I would urge everyone to stay safe till we meet again, maybe after 2 months. All the very best. Stay safe. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you everyone.